Okay, welcome everyone. So today we have Kate Cubley with us today, a professional voice coach and academic, so a unique combination. Someone who understands the challenges of having to do public speaking, which we all have to do as researchers, and who has a bunch of skills that I know from personal experience are really, really useful. So looking forward to hearing more. Kate, over to you.
Thank you so much, Mark. Thank you, everybody, for coming this morning and for joining us. I know I met Mark at a series of lectures that Mark actually gave as a student. I'm a PhD student at De Montfort, and we got chatting there, and that's how I ended up landing this gig. And I'm just so honored to be here. So thank you so much for inviting me along. Hopefully I'm going to do you all proud and give you some items and some ideas that you guys can take away today and go and apply in your own presentations as well. So without further ado, I've got a slideshow. I like to use slideshows, but it does mean that on Zoom, I'm just going to be this tiny little nugget in the corner. I will pull in and out of it, and there's a big practical section. So hopefully you've all got like a pen and a bit of paper so you can scribble ideas down. You've got a keyboard so you can pop things in the chat, and also you've got space to stand up about 30 minutes in, because then we'll all get moving. Okay. So this is the art of engaging presentations. Can I just tell you how terrifying it is turning up to give a presentation on engaging presentations and keep you all engaged for an entire hour? It's a scary thing. And actually 90% of people are afraid. They have anxiety before speaking in front of other people or performing in front of other people. So it's a really normal thing. And I want to normalize that throughout this presentation, because that is one thing that actually stops us from performing at our A game if we think that it's only us. So I'm an all right singer. That's how I got into voice coaching. You know, I'm okay. I'm okay at singing. I loved singing when I was a kid, and I got up on stage and I took these opportunities and I sang with the choir and I played in the orchestra. And before every performance, I got nervous. I think there's an excitement in there as well, because actually the same chemicals are released in your body, nervous or excited. So if you think about, if you go to, like Chessington or Thorpe Park or Alton Towers, and you're standing in a queue for a roller coaster, and you feel that nervous excitement, you feel where your heart starts beating, your breathing changes a little bit, and you feel really excited to go on a roller coaster. It's kind of the same when you're getting up to give a presentation as well. Remember that that chemical release in the body is exactly the same, and it's really normal. So as a performer, before I got up on stage, I would have clammy hands. I would shake when I was on stage. I'd get those butterflies in my tummy, and I would sometimes feel sick. There's an ongoing joke in singing circles that you've always got to go for a safety wee before you get up on stage, because you never know what might happen when you get on stage. And I'm hoping that you guys can perhaps relate to some of these feelings, so that you know how it feels already to stand up in front of people and present. It's a nerve-wracking thing to do. So I'm a professional voice coach. When I started voice coaching, no word of a lie, I stopped singing at all. And actually, it's only in the pandemic that I started performing again, and I really needed an outlet for my creativity. I found that when I'm voice coaching, I'm working with people in a really creative way anyway, so I didn't necessarily miss my performance because I was finding an outlet for it through my students. But in the pandemic, I didn't have that one-on-one interaction with other singers and with other speakers, and so I needed a way to create music. So I collared two of my friends, and we set up a trio, and we recorded videos in our own homes, and then we pieced the 3-part harmony together, and then we posted them online. And this then kind of blew up. And after the pandemic, people actually booked us to go and sing for them, which I hadn't expected. It was a nice little surprise, but that's what got me back into performing as well. Now, in this session, I'm going to take you on a bit of a journey to hopefully enhance your presentation skills and captivate your audience as well. We're going to focus on some practical strategies. We will get up and get moving, and we're going to hopefully find a way to find easy speech, reduce that feeling of anxiety, and get you guys into a state of flow when you're on that stage. You know, when you feel like you're in the zone and time just kind of disappears into nowhere, and you know that you are doing your best. So what I'd like you all to do for a moment is just take a second and pop into the chat what you think makes an effective presentation. There are 82 of you here. I can't believe that. That's crazy. Yeah, connecting with the audience. Thanks, Becky. Stories, empathetic engagement, not speaking too fast. I'm very guilty of that one. Storytelling, pace of speech, pictures, clear objective structure. You guys have got epic ideas already. I'm hoping that because this session is being recorded, Mark, this chat will also be recorded. So what you can do after the session is you'll be able to pull out all of these ideas from everyone. We have got the brains of 82 researchers in the room who have been to presentations and probably know exactly what it takes to create a good presentation. But if you then go through these ideas and think, right, have I got all of these ingredients in my presentation? Don't worry if you don't have all of them, because there's finding the right input for prompting good questions for everybody. Yes, exactly. And getting the audience involved. Super. Thank you so much. I love this audience. You're all engaged. All right. So on putting this together, I wanted to, I'm very good at kind of working on the fly with regards to voice coaching because I've been doing it for so long, but I actually wanted to give you some like stats and some numbers. And I found this first one, Morabian's communication model, and they say that the voice and nonverbal communication contribute the most to our communication and understanding. Now, when I originally found this, it was off a blog post and it said it was contribute the most to our presentations. As a researcher, you obviously have to go back to the source, and it's actually misquoted. It's specifically when conveying feelings and attitudes. Now, if you are putting in your own feelings and your own attitudes into your talk when you're talking about research, that's going to make you passionate about it. I'm not going to lie. As a PhD researcher, I have started researching my own topic because of a problem that I myself have faced and something that my own students face. So my enthusiasm for that project is because it's something that is real in my world. And I'm sure that that will resonate with a lot of you. You're doing your research because you have seen the potential impact that those answers could have in the community in which you're working. So I think that actually the voice and nonverbal communication can really help us give good understanding to our audience and communicate more authentically. Nonverbal communication is a bit of a funny one when we're working on Zoom, which so many of us are these days. Nonverbal communication, if you think about traditionally when we're in a lecture theatre or on a stage, giving a speech in person, we stand in a very different way. I would not give this presentation sitting down if we were all together in a lecture theatre, yet here I'm in my home office and I'm sitting down on a stool. I do have good body alignment, I'll talk about later, but it's very different on Zoom and you don't get quite as much from my body. I'm a little tiny face square in the corner, so you're probably not going to get as much from my face. So keep that in mind when you're talking on Zoom. I've already mentioned that 90% of people experience fear of public speaking. And most people stop listening to a presentation after the initial 10 minutes. So this hopefully goes to highlight the importance of good vocal performance in research presentation, which I hope is where I come in. I want you to think for a moment what motivates you to want to present. this kind of links with your why do you want to do this? Why do you want to put yourself on stage and go through that anxiety? And whilst you're thinking about it and writing it down, I'm going to tell you a little story about my dog. And my dog is called Shanti. She's a tiny toy poodle, and she's really, really fussy with her food. Poodles are notoriously fussy with their food, right? So we motivate her with a treat. So when she finishes her food twice a day for her entire life, we give her a treat after she's eaten, and she'll come through. If we miss, she'll come through and she'll do a little beggy face like, oh, I'm really good, I've eaten my food, can I have my treat now? And if you still ignore her, she burps at you, no word of a lie, she burps. And then she'll woof if she's still not getting attention. Now, I've got a 3-year-old son as well, and my 3-year-old son has taken this habit for himself. So now when he finishes his dinner, he says, oh, I've been really good, can I have a treat now? And it's even got to the point where he goes for a walk and he asks for a treat. So, you know, it's all got out of hand. The point being is we are motivated by stuff and things. You might be motivated because you might be able to obtain some finances for your research. You might be being paid for a gig. You might want to be regarded highly in your field and want that recognition. It might align with success for you. Whatever those motivations are, I want you to be really clear on them, because these are just going to add to your why you want to get up on stage. I'm going to talk to you about 3 key aspects, which, funnily enough, kind of align with my company slogan. Smile is lined with how you stand on stage and how you present yourself to the audience who are there in front of you. If we walk on stage and our body alignment isn't brilliant, or if we're hunched over and we are small, the audience will already think that we feel nervous before we get there. So we want to stand confidently and smile at the audience in front of us. The second thing is breathe. You will have noticed on my opening slide that I'm also a breath coach, and I find that breath and voice are really married together like this. They're absolutely connected. The way that you breathe impacts the way that your voice sounds. It impacts the resonance and it impacts your projection. It also impacts the way that you feel before your performance. So we can actually hack the nervous system to help reduce those anxiety and nerves. Finally, we're going to talk about speaking clearly. So know what you're talking about, present great information, and engage your audience in a compelling way. Now, I've got 4 slides here, which are kind of story slides in a way, but it speaks to what we are doing when we are presenting to other people. We need to prepare. And as researchers, you're all doing this already. As a researcher myself, I know that I am literally drowning in stuff and knowledge and items of information that relate to my subject area. So you need to whittle that down and fit it into the allotted time for your audience. But also, if you think about how a sports person gets ready to get out on the field or into the court, we're going to align that with what we're doing as speakers as well. There's a lot of sports psychology that I pull into my voice coaching sessions because it is so well aligned. And sports psychology has a lot of research backing it. It's only in the past 10, 15 years or so that voice research has actually started picking up in the same way. So the sports person practices and improves off the court, mental preparation, and, you know, keeping the body fit and keeping it, those muscles exercised. Before a game, they're going to warm up those muscles. So they're going to do specific exercises to warm up the muscles. And your voice is a series of muscles. You need to warm them up before you speak to get the best out of it. And then this sports person here has got dressed, they've put on a uniform, they've put on something that makes them feel like they're going out to go and perform in that specific role. You may want to do this as well. You may want to wear something that makes you feel good on stage, that makes you feel ready to present. He's bringing a basketball. You're probably going to take your slides or your notes or something that you want to take along for that, whether it's a prop or some ideas for that presentation. And then you're going to perform in the arena, and hopefully you're going to perform in the arena before you have to perform in that arena. So this, you'll be not surprised to hear, I hope, is not my first rodeo on Zoom. I have presented on Zoom before, and this specific presentation I practiced with my family. So beforehand, I just want to make sure that I'm giving the best of myself to you and to make sure it's understandable. Finally, what I will say is turning up here is absolutely amazing. I'm so happy that you're all here today because you're already thinking about how you're preparing for presenting to other people. I want you to go away and practice some of these ideas when you leave. In terms of awareness, I want you to imagine that you're watching X Factor and you are watching that audition, you know, those really cheesy, awful audition phases where the singers get up and they are not great, shall we say? They're definitely there for the TV. They're definitely there to entertain the masses. But either they're performing poorly, you know, for the likes and for the fame, they're performing poorly because they're nervous, or they're performing poorly because nobody's told them that they're not very good. It's my role as a voice coach to tell people when they're not very good and help you fix it. Notice that at no point I've said that they can't sing. My belief is that everyone can sing. You just need to know how. The point is we grow further when we know what to nurture. And I'm really sorry about this crazy flower. I hadn't realized that it would just keep blossoming the whole time when I was talking. It's very off-putting. It's a little bit, little bit mad. Right. Okay, next up, vocalizing. Your voice is a representation of you. So anything that I am doing with voice, anything that you're doing with your voice, you don't want to change it completely. You want to create a better vocal with what you've already got. You want to tell your story well, and you want all of the tools in your toolkit or in your artist palette to add color to that presentation and add interest for the audience. And finally, envisage. And I know this is a little bit woolly, but you'll see why I've used Envisage in a moment. I'm a big goal setter with my students, with anybody that walks into a classroom with me. I think about setting goals. And we've already started this in this session where we've thought about what motivates us to get up on stage with people watching us. Envisaging how you want that to feel, how well you want that to go, and the kind of audience that you imagine speaking to is all going to speak volumes to your own self-talk and how well you do. Now, all of these things together conveniently create the word pave. See what I did there? And what I'd like you all to be able to do is pave your way to powerful presentations. After this session, I know Mark is going to send out this poster. It's a big poster. You can print it out and stick it on your fridge if you like. And I think there'll be a recording, and I'm happy to send you the slides as well if you would like them. I've set the slides up deliberately so that you can hopefully pick up some ideas from the slides later on rather than just me wittering on. All right, because we've had another 10 minutes and I don't want you to fall asleep, I want you guys to think in a presentation or performance, what kind of adjustments could someone make to their voice? And if you want to put those ideas in the chat, that would be splendid. I'm going to stop share a moment so I can see you all. Brilliant. Yeah. You've all got some fantastic ideas. Check you've not gone high with the nerves. Do you mean like high pitched? Yeah. Breathe. Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Becky. Yeah, super. Say less. Brilliant. All right, again, we've got some really nice answers here in the chat. And this is going to prompt me to go back to my slideshow and share my next screen, because it shares a lot of that. So we've got paralinguistics. Paralinguistics are things like tone, pitch, inflection, the kind of things that's not actually the language that we're using, but the way that we are using those words. Somebody mentioned using pause. And this is a really good one. So pause, you want to add in when you want to accentuate a point. And you can either pause after you've made the point, or you can pause before it. And that pause is going to have a very nice effect either side of that. Inflection, you can play around with. Try not to keep rising the ends of your lines, because it will sound every time like you're asking a question. Varying the volume when you want to accentuate something is very, very clever. Lots of you have mentioned changing the tone. So it's Halloween at the moment, and we can make things a little bit spooky if we wanted to, just by changing the tone of our voice. I could also change the pitch of my voice and just be slightly different and a little bit more excited and sound a little bit like I belong on Sesame Street, maybe. There's many, many things that we can do with our voice. And I really want you to explore that palette and play with the sound. Think about when you were a child and you sang along to things, or you gave your characters different voices. My son's obsessed with monster trucks and toy cars, and he will have conversations between the toy cars, and they all have different voices. And he's very, very good at it, and he's only 3. When we're young, we're very happy to play. We don't mind what others think, because we're not aware of that judgment yet. But then when we get older, we start getting judged. People start giving us perhaps negative feedback on the way that we sound or the way that we're presenting. And that then puts us into a very small pigeonhole of space, because we think that we can't really play around with the sound. And then we end up being that very stereotypical, monotone, very uninteresting lecturer, dare I say. I think everyone may have had a teacher that spoke with that real monotone. And that's bored. That's, you know, that will really bore the audience. So playing around with all of these things is very, very strong. I've got a story for you, which was a lesson that I had just last week. One of my students was behind a music stand, and their head was down. And they didn't need their lyrics. They did not need their lyrics, but just staring at their lyrics as this safety blanket. They did not lift their head up once in the entire song. And I know that they know this song quite well. And I said, well, you know, we're performing this in a couple of weeks. What's going on with hiding behind the lyrics? Oh, well, I was just trying to be safe. And I said, well, let's talk about what your intention is. Why have you chosen this song? Oh, well, because it's about friendship and connection. Right, okay. And then what do you want to do with that in terms of the audience? Oh, well, I'd like to engage them. Right, okay. And think about how that fits in your wider life. Like, how does that correlate with what you're doing in your life as well? Oh, well, I'm very community driven. Okay. And how do you engage with that community? Well, I look at them and I talk to them. So then we sang it again. And because this intention, that why was there, he'd completely changed the way that he was delivering that song. And I'll tell you, he didn't look at the lyrics once, because he really wanted to engage with, well, an imaginary audience in the studio. You've got to find your intention. Okay, so another large part of what I do is working with vocal health. I work with singers and speakers, and if vocal health is not maintained, you end up with problems, throat clearing, vocal fatigue, feeling a little bit tired, not being able to present at your best. That's not to say that you are going to present at 100% every single time you present, because that's impossible. We wake up feeling different every day. You might have had a really exhausting holiday in half term and then have to come and present on a Monday morning, or you might be feeling on top of the world. In terms of maintaining vocal health, there's a few key things, and they're listed on this slide. Hydration, and that's not whilst you're speaking, by the way. This is in advance of the speaking engagement. Your vocal folds are not an essential organ in terms of, if your body's dehydrated, your body's going to keep the moisture in your heart and your lungs over your vocal folds. So keeping hydrated to make sure they're really nice and moist. Practice your vocal exercises often. I'm going to give you all those in a moment. And warm up before you speak or teach or present or sing. I will encourage you to sing. I want you to breathe through your nose. And actually you can, if you feel that you're able to, and some people have got deviated septums or polyps or a cold, you might hear my cold as well here. I want you to think about breathing through your nose. We'll come to why soon. And avoid throat clearing. A lot of people throat clear nervously. Instead of throat clearing, I urge you to try and swallow. By swallowing, your larynx kind of resets, it lifts up and down in the neck, and it's almost like it acts as some windscreen wipers for your vocal folds. It will also swallow any of that nasty clag into your tummy and get it out of the way before you talk. Avoid pushing or straining the voice, and specifically if the room is really big, use a microphone and ask for one if they've not provided one. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the slides, because this is where we're going to get practical. So you guys, I'd like you all to stand up in your space, wherever you are, whatever you're doing. I'm going to stand up here as well and hope that you can see me well enough. This is an awareness game. So in the 4 arrows that I've just carefully taken off the screen for you, it said aware, accept, change, and move. And this is what we're going to do throughout this next bit of the session. We'll probably do this for about 10, maybe even 15 minutes. But to start off, I want you to check in with your body. Give yourself a bit of a scan. Start at the ground, come all the way up through your body. Notice if there's any areas of tension. Notice if you're locking the knees or whether the knees are loose. Notice whether you've got any tightness in the shoulders. We often hold tightness in the shoulders, and as researchers, we spend a lot of time kind of hunkered over our laptops, half the time on the sofa, not gonna lie. And we get these aches in the back of our shoulders as well. So just be aware of, where do you feel any aches? Then accept them. That's okay. It's okay to be achy. It's okay to be feeling a little bit under the weather. If you've got a cold, it's okay. And then what we're going to do is we're going to stretch. So I want you to reach up to the ceiling and then out to the side. Imagine that you can touch either side of the room that you're in, and then relax again. Breathe out, drop your arms. And then same thing again, up to the ceiling. Take a breath in, drop them to the side, stretch out, and drop them again to your side. Breathe out. I want you to put your wrists out in front of you, and you're just going to circle them around and the other way. And then we're going to do the same with the elbows. You can do both at the same time with your arms. Wait till we get to legs. And then shoulders. Now with shoulders, I like to roll the shoulders forwards first. And I'll show you why. Because if you roll them forwards 5 times or so, and then pause for a moment, notice where your shoulders stop. They kind of stop in this slightly hunched position. So now let's go the other way. Take them back the other way. Another 5 of those shoulder rolls.
just loosening everything off there. And then notice that when you stop from your backwards shoulder rolls, you've got more space across the front here. Now, for speakers, this is really, really important because we want to be able to optimize our ability to breathe. If we've got good body alignment, we can breathe well. If we can breathe well, we can speak well. So this is really key. Now I'm going to ask you to put your feet hips width apart and your knees ever so slightly bent. They don't have to be like really loosey-goosey. They just don't want to be locked. And if we just engage in some negative practice for a moment and lock your knees, notice for me where that tension manifests in your body. Some people will feel it in the jaw. I feel it instantly in the lower back. Release, release. You will all feel that in a different place. And then we're going to energize. So particularly on a Monday morning at 10:35, I'm really impressed you're all here, by the way. Energizing is quite important. And I will be honest, I did do these before I came to see you guys this morning. I have stolen these straight from Qigong. Like I say, breath and voice are seriously intertwined. And this is a really nice energizing technique. Scott, I can already see you doing this. That's a really good one, just getting the blood moving. What I'm going to ask you to do, I'm going to just shift my camera ever so slightly so you can kind of see my tummy a little bit more. I'm going to ask you to just swing your arms around. Make sure you've got enough room so you're not going to bash the ends of your fingers on anything. Now, notice that as I'm doing this, the backs of my hands is just spinning around to hit my kidneys here. And this really wakes up the kidneys as well. Then when you're ready, or if you feel like you can, then for a deeper stretch, you can turn your head over your shoulders as well as you're doing that spin. This is just energizing the body. Great. Now what I'd like you to do is I want you to pat down the inside of your arm and up the outside of your arm, over to the back of your shoulder, and then down the inside, up the outside, over to the shoulder, and then one more time, down the inside, up the outside, and then we're going to swap arms. So down the inside, up the outside, down the inside, up the outside. Last one, down the inside, up the outside. Now, starting at your kidneys again, I'm going to ask you to do exactly the same. If you can, don't push yourself. Down the outsides of your legs, down to your ankles, leaning forward, if you can reach that far. Then up the inside, back up to your kidneys. Down the outside of your legs, give them a good old pat. Up the inside. We're going to do this 3 times if you're capable. Please don't make yourself dizzy. Brilliant. Okay. Now I want you to stand again and notice what you notice. Notice whether your body feels different. Notice whether you can feel the blood rising to the surface of your skin, whether you feel more energized, ready to get on stage. Good. All right, next up, regarding body, I'm going to talk about power posing. So whilst you're stood up, if you want to pop your hands on your hips, or if you want to stand like Superman, this is also absolutely acceptable in this session. You're going to point up to the sky. Amy Cuddy is a researcher who some of you may have heard of, and she talks about power posing. She's done a lot of work on body language and how we present. And what she did was she got 2 groups of people. One group of people were asked to stand in a power pose, and the other group of people were asked to sit in a kind of hunched up position. What those 2 groups of people did was one group went into an interview situation and then came out and said how they felt about it. The other group went into the interview, same interview situation, came out and said what they thought about it. Which group do you think felt more comfortable and confident about that interview? It was the power posing group. I can see you smiling, you know it. Also, the interviewers themselves also rated the participants. They didn't know who was who, but they marked them. They marked them on their interview skills and their interview confidence. and the group that did the power posing were received better by the audience as well, by those interviewers. So power posing, we're taking up space and we're stepping into our own shaped space. We don't have to necessarily be larger than life. We don't have to be anyone we're not. We just need to be able to take ownership of that space on stage. All right, dropping your arms by your sides. We've had a little time to recalibrate the breathing after our energetic qigong moment. I'd like you just to bring your attention to your breath. Remember our 4 arrows, which are on the slide when you look back at them. We've got awareness, acceptance, change, and movement. Notice your breath. Notice whether it's high in the chest. Notice whether it's in your ribs, or notice whether it's down here in the tummy. So when I talk about tummy, I mean belly button. When I talk about ribs, I really mean ribs. I don't mean waist. A lot of people put their hands on their waist. I really mean ribs. What I know when I'm working with people one-to-one is if they're breathing up here, they're a little bit nervous. I can feel my own breath is up here a little bit, but that's kind of because I'm presenting. So I'm deliberately taking it slightly lower. And I've got a really great advantage here because I'm talking to you all about breathing. So I get to take the breath low. We want to really engage with a low and slow breath, because a low and slow breath engages our parasympathetic nervous system. Our PNS is associated with rest and digest, and it makes us feel safe and happy. It helps alleviate that nervousness. Notice for me whether you're breathing in through your nose, out through your nose, in through your mouth, or out through your mouth. Notice that the air is cooler on the inhale compared to your exhale, which is warmer. Notice whether there's any shoulder movement as you breathe. Or notice if there's any tummy movement as you breathe. And what I'm going to ask you all to do is I'm going to ask you to make a diamond shape like this with your hands and pop it over your belly button. The reason for this is everybody feels movement in a different place. So I can feel the pelvic floor down here with these fingers. I can feel my solar plexus up here with my thumbs. And I can feel my transverse abs here with the sides of my hands. So we're kind of covering the whole tummy area. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to very deliberately relax all of this as you breathe in. So it's going to get bigger. And then as you exhale, you're going to pull your belly button towards your spine. And what we're going to do is we're going to do this with a hiss. You probably won't hear me hiss on Zoom because I've got my original sound off. Let me turn that on. Hang on. You might hear me hiss, right? So I'm going to breathe in. I'll maybe focus on my tummy because then you can see what I'm doing with this movement. So breathing in and then and then when I get to the end of that breath, I release and relax and let all this flop out again. And then so your in-breath, you're getting bigger. Like when you blow up a balloon and you're filling it with air, you get bigger. As you exhale and that air comes out, you get smaller. I see a lot of paradoxical breath, and there are too many of you here to do one-to-one inspections. So I need you to be really aware of that, because if you are breathing paradoxically, you will end up breathing into your chest, which then engages the SNS, and that will be your fight and flight response. So you'll feel more anxious. So breathing low and slow. Now we've already started hissing, so we've already started engaging this part of our body as well. We're now going to put voice behind that too. So this is going to be a zzz, or if you don't like a zzz sound because it tickles your tongue, you can use a hum instead. And all I want you to do is I want you to siren up and down through your speaking range. So something like zzz or mm. All right, and you can cycle that round. You can do that all on one breath and have a few cycles. When you inhale, see if you can inhale through the nose. I could write an entire hour's lecture on breathing through the nose. So I'm just going to leave it at that and say breathe through your nose. And notice what you notice about your voice. Does it feel smooth? Does it feel resonant? Does it feel a little bit scratchy and a little bit too early in the morning to be vocalizing? Thank you very much. Notice what you notice and be okay with that. We've got no judgment. We're just bringing awareness to it. We're going to accept it and then we're going to change it. So, and once again, we're going to This is just in your speaking range. So we're not taking it too low or too high at the moment. This is a really nice way to warm up your voice, ready for being able to provide different pitches to your audience and keep that engagement. Then what we're going to do is we're going to take it lower as well. So speaking range, but a bit lower. Don't feel like you need to use the same pitches as me, by the way. Everybody's voice is different. You can choose your own pitch. So sliding up and down, taking it slightly lower. And then we're going to take it higher as well. So I'm doing the hand movements just in case Zoom cuts off my thing, but feel free to engage with those as well. I get that a lot in choir. It's a very helpful visual to help you with your vocalization, and it's going to help your body moving as well. All right, so notice what you notice. Now, all of these exercises you can try with other fricative sounds. And this is really useful just for warming up the articulators as well. So you could try a V for volcano, or a TH for those, or the J sound at the end of bridge. And all these different sounds, basically what we're doing is we're connecting the body, the breath, and the voice. Notice that we're elongating those sounds and we're really connecting everything together. So we're looking for flow. I noticed that a few of you are like stretching or perhaps even yawning, and I think that's a really normal thing. So when you're vocalizing, what happens is because you're using different muscles, your body does start to think about taking more oxygen. And because I've asked you to breathe through your nose, exactly the same thing. Exactly the same thing. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to and chew. This is a great exercise from one of my old mentors. And we're just going to imagine really moving the tongue around. And then I want you to imagine that you've got this starter. You're in the pub, you've got this great starter. Your mouth is full, but you're telling your friend, Then the main comes out. Wow, you just can't get enough of this main. So keep on chewing, keep that tongue moving. And then dessert comes out. And you've got higher expectations, but so a bit rubbish. So we're just playing around with pitches here. Playing around with pitch, getting this whole facial muscle mass moving as well. All right. Now what I want to do is I want to move on. I do have vowels as well, and I have a little poem exercise, but I'm conscious of time. So these practical exercises are really nice warm-ups, basically to get the body moving. So we energize the whole body, to get the breath moving and to get the breath working for us, so we can hack that breath and feel way less nervous about I've just been spotlighted. That's very disconcerting. Thanks, Mark.
Sorry.
That's all right, don't worry. So we can feel way less nervous about getting up and presenting in front of people. And then also
thinking about the way that we're using the voice and the way that we are warming up the voice in order to speak in front of other people. Okay, so if I head back to the slideshow so I can unspotlight myself in this very, very big way, but there are vowels. We can play around with vowels as well. And what I want to say about vowels is that the vowel is the biggest part of the sound. You'll notice everything that we've done this morning is kind of humming or fricative related, fricative being those buzzy zzz, sounds. And they're really gentle, lovely, voice-loving warm-ups. When we open into vowels, e, ah, or, oo, these are the bits of the words that really flood out to the audience. So that's the bit that they hear. It's the consonants that interrupt those vowels that help us make sense of it and create it into language. Because if we just spoke in vowels, that would be weird. But it's worth noticing. Now, the next slide, I'm going to leave in there, and this is perhaps something that you can try at home. But this is a really nice articulation exercise. So you stick your tongue out, and you've got to keep it out, but you've still got to be understood. So it goes like this. Several moments shared, laughter, bottles clinking, plates chinking, cutlery banging, wowing. You can really start to feel the tongue aching as you're doing this. So practice this. You can, obviously you're all on mute, so you're welcome to practice it for a moment now, but you've got the whole poem at home. What this then does is it really cleans up your articulation. So if you've got a speech that you're giving, you can speak with your tongue out at the beginning of it, and it's very effective. What I will say is it's useless as a like ages away warm up. It's very effective as a right before your talk warm up, because it kind of helps the tongue. All right, let's get going, because I know you'll have questions for me as well. So be clear on what you want to achieve. I want you to set clear goals and seize opportunities. Remember that I spoke to you about the very beginning, about your why at the very beginning of this session. Why do you want to get up and speak in front of people? What do you want to achieve? I told you before that I'm big on goal setting. And at the beginning of this year, I get a new notebook. I don't have a diary because I'm absolutely useless at keeping diaries, but I do have a notebook. And at the beginning of my notebook this year, I wrote down my why, my whys. And I wanted to travel more. I wanted to have more fun with my family. I wanted to help students and clients with their confidence into the way that they're using their voices. Fun is always in my vocabulary, and joy, like my word for the year is joy. And then I also wrote sustainability on this list. You know, like I'm a bit of a recycling fiend. I try and buy secondhand, you know, all that. And I'm like, you know, sustainability doesn't right fit in with the rest of my missions, but I've stuck it on my list anyway. Now, in terms of seizing opportunities, you will literally not believe that I had an email in summertime saying, we are accepting proposals to speak at COP28 in December. I was like, oh, well, that's a climate change conference. That's to do with sustainability. So I applied and I got it. So hang on, I get to go and talk about the voice and breath at a sustainability conference, and somebody's paying for me to travel there. And like, I had no idea that was going to happen. That wasn't my goal. That wasn't my intention at the beginning of the year, but I was really clear that I wanted to travel and somehow link voice and sustainability. So write down your why, write down your goals. You never know what's going to happen. Here's your recap. Smile and the world will smile with you. You know that saying, it does work. Think about how you're presenting yourself on stage. Think about how you're using gesture and body language. Use breathing to help calm your nerves. Think low and slow. My son is obsessed with 2 programs. One is Pixar Cars and one is Pixar Planes. In both of those movies, there is a one-liner, low and slow. It happens in both of them. And I swear one day I'm going to like film it and put it in my presentations. Keep your breath. low and slow. It will engage the parasympathetic nervous system and really help with anxiety. Remember at the beginning of this talk, I told you how much anxiety I have before I have presented in the past. I still get anxious, I'm not going to lie. I still get nerves, my breath still does crazy things. But I can deal with it way, way better now I know how to hack my breathing. And speak now. Don't wait to have it all polished and perfect. You will know full well from me speaking today that this is not absolutely perfect, but hopefully it's engaged you enough to make you feel inspired and likely to go out and present yourselves. There is a poster winging its way to your inbox, which is going to encourage you to prepare in advance, practice the exercise I've given to you. Be aware of what your body and breath are doing. Vocalize using those fricative, humming, warm, gentle vocal warm-ups and envisage what you want. Set those goals. And I do have a quick reflection, which I think we have time for. Great. I want you to, in your notebook or whatever piece of paper you've got handy, what is your key takeaway from today? Which was your favorite exercise? And just because it might be different, which was the most helpful? See, my favorite is the energy one, like doing the qigong banging. I think because everybody giggles when they're doing it, it's very silly, and it's nice to start an event with something very silly that just throws you for a loop. So I like that one, but I don't think it's necessarily the most helpful for me. Breathing is much more helpful for me. And then I want you to think about how can you practice incorporating these techniques into your daily routine. I don't mean to say that you have got to like carve out 10 minutes to go and warm up your voice. But here's what I encourage my clients and my students to do is think about the things that you do every day. So every single morning, without fail, I get up, I take a shower. In the shower, I hum. I notice what my breath is doing. I notice what my voice is doing. And I notice whether it's feeling a little bit crummy or whether it's feeling pretty good today. And that's okay. Again, I'm aware of it, but I'm not judging it. I'm changing it if I need to. When I clean my teeth, I stretch. True story. I stretch when I clean my teeth because I do it every day. And sometimes in the evening, if I've not actually got my step count on my watch for the day, I'll walk around the whole bedroom. My husband thinks I'm bananas, but I just walk around until I hit my step count, which means I clean my teeth for ages sometimes. Anyway, think about how you can get these exercises into your routine. And that's it. There are reference slides for you as well. So if you wanted to find out any more, but in the last couple of minutes, I'll hand over to you and see if there's any questions.
It's inspiring and useful in equal measure, and I think it really shows, as a researcher, bringing the evidence into this has been really powerful. So thank you. And a couple of minutes for questions, a few coming in. So over to you, Kate.
Well, right. Well, let me just try and open up my chat. All right, hang on. Oh, good. So I like the takeaway. It all starts with breath. That's great. I'm glad I've managed to hammer that point home for you. Thank you. Effectiveness. I've got an extra slide on authenticity. You know, it's like a bonus slide at the end. What I would say is people turn up to a talk to hear you speak. They want to hear about your expertise, and you are you, and actually it's you is the reason that people turn up to. It's you that they want to see. It's your voice that they want to hear. And you'll notice that I'm not speaking in a really proper RP. I've not actually even slowed my speech down for this talk, which is a conscious decision, and it's because I'm on Zoom. And when I'm on Zoom, sometimes I'm chatting to family, sometimes I'm chatting to friends. I'm really close to the computer, and in this situation, there's a lot of you, and I don't want to take my speech too slowly and make it too formal.
I mentioned before, I'm all about fun and engagement. And for me, I kind of want to connect with you like I would with my friends and like I would with my family. So that's my authenticity. And there are going to be plenty of coaches out there that tell you that that's not the right thing to do. But you're going to get loads of instructions from everyone. My biggest instruction is, if you can get your message across clearly, that's effective. And you can do that by being authentically you. Becky, if you're speaking in a session with speakers before you and you need to be in the room, so you can't do them before, oh, that's a really, really good one. Okay, so
we'll finish up.
Say again?
Briefly, if you can, and then we'll finish.
Oh, yeah, of course. Well, go to the toilets and hide away in the toilets and hum, or when there's a round of applause, you can really, really throw those exercises into the noisy moments of an audience crowd. Thank you all so much for being here.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you, everyone. And I am wondering, anyone who's in a shared office, what your colleagues are now thinking of you. But yeah, we really care. So useful. Kate, it's been a pleasure. Thank you, everyone, for coming along.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me, Mark. It's been a real joy. I feel really honoured to be here.
Great. It's great. So informal chat, if anyone wants. I was just going to say, yeah, how much I've taken from this personally, and I'm convinced others will have done as well. I've been told about breathing, but actually the way that you helped me to do that deep breathing, I was like, oh, so that's how you do it. And it's the first time I've actually worked out, okay, so yeah, that is actually technically just using the right muscles, how to do that. And so, yeah, so powerful. And yeah, I had voice coaching, but I maybe just didn't remember this because it was a long time ago. But I don't remember there being anything about warming up and power poses and other forms of preparation right beforehand. It was all about when I was speaking, and so yeah, that's all stuff I'm going to start doing.
Brill. Oh God, I'm so happy. If you're feeling inspired, and if you've got any other questions that I didn't answer, feel free to drop them through on email. I know Mark sent you my website. You'll find my email there. I'm very happy to answer anything.